Goodness to you. Hey, this is Sporty King. And I say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But isn't it wonderful to put good in front? And so that's what I decide to do whenever I do my broadcast. And right now, if you're on with me in person, live as we call it, I'm actually coming on live 5 minutes before the broadcast start, so that Facebook can do what's called build the audience. It's personal preference when you're presenting or broadcasting, and that is, since I'm scheduled to be on at 1, rather than wait till 1 for you to get the announcement that I'm on, I decide to give, because you might say, "Oh my God, that's right, it's 1 o'clock, Sporty's on." Because come on, you got something else that you may be doing, right? So therefore, I've decided that I will always come on early and give you a time to say, "Oh my God, yes." And then, "Hey, what's up to you?" Oh, I was just getting ready to try to do something new, and now I see I won't be able to do it. Okay. Because I was trying to be in real time and be on my Facebook page with the broadcast, but then I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to give the shout outs. So what's up, Coach Tawana? Good to see you. And by the way, while she says coach, my coach Tawana, she's a great coach for LinkedIn. So if you've got any LinkedIn problems or challenges or questions, just check with her. Okay. All right. Meanwhile, hey, what's up? Roger Carroll, Chicago, back in the house as well. Uncle Sporty. Yes, yeah, we gotta get our Ebonical situation going sometime. But I'm glad to be an uncle. And Roger Carroll is not what her spelling is off right now because she's also be a grandma. So she's ending things in A because she just had her daughter Simone just had a wonderful baby shower last weekend, and it was great to be involved with that. And you are certainly welcome, Coach Twan. It's been years. It's been years, but I love seeing how crisp your images are on LinkedIn and reading your articles and just enjoying the tips that you give. So yeah, thank you for being that blessing and being there for people. But in fact, I want to put click in there how, because will they find you in LinkedIn as Coach Tawana, or is there something else? So if there's something else, please throw that in there and let people know. We've got less than 3 minutes for today's message, but again, I just like to get on early and do my shout outs. And so, in fact, I just realized that I will be able to do what I was thinking that I was going to do, and that is I can actually get the comments in real time, um, because just by your name. Okay. Okay. Roger Carey is going to be Gigi. See, then I can't do the shout outs. If I go on the Facebook page, I can't do the shout outs because I like to get these comments, even though you can see them in the thread. If you're watching the videotape, you won't see them in the thread because you'll be watching the video. So I like to get those comments on because the comments make a difference, y'all. Man, see, a lot of times people, like being interviewed on a podcast this weekend with Jeremy. Oh man, he's going to have a great series. That's also going to be on LinkedIn. Jeremy, I don't know, it's Torisk. Anyway, Torisk, I think. I'll double check it and put it in there. But I said to him, he said, "Oh, well, I don't want us to get off topic." I said, "You know what? I never get off topic because the truth is everything, whatever your mind goes to in the moment, it's actually related to what you're doing. And that's why your mind went there. And so it's just a matter of, instead of getting upset about that, just make the connection. Why did my mind just go there? And then you make the connection and then you'll make it better. So that's why I like to get the comments in there and just put Coach Tawana as good. Oh, and I didn't even notice that part that Roger Carroll said she got to talk to Coach Tawana. See, that's what I'm saying. Those little things, if you whisk past them, you won't see how somebody may have a need or they may be a wonderful connection. And what a connection is about, they are about reputation. And and that's something I think I'm going to throw in today as well. Look, we got less than a minute to go on today's message as well. So thanks again and then there's a third person watching, but they haven't signed in yet. Let us know that they're on board. So come on and click in and get a quick shout out. before we get this party started. Hey, and check this out. I got to tell you something else. I'm actually feeling very comfortable. I just sat back in my office for the first time since my knee upgrade yesterday, because it was uncomfortable sitting in a chair and stopping the blood flow when because my knee wasn't bending properly. I've got a great physical therapist. He does a really good job. Stephen, give him a shout out. And so he's really been doing a great job of helping me find out what this 2021 knee actually does, because I know what the original knee did as well as what it didn't do. So let's see what the new knee does. And the new knee does. And I just have to make sure that I can keep up with the therapy. Okay. Hey, look, it is 1 o'clock. It's time for our message. If this is your first time on Glue Wednesday, welcome. The reason I call it Glue Wednesday is because so often we hear people say that Wednesday is hump day. And I say, well, you know what? Because I like to play with words. You got to play with the English language. What it does is it keeps your mind flowing, keeps you creative, keeps you involved. And I said, you know what? Wednesday, they said it was hump day, because back in the old days, we only looked at you work from Monday to Friday and the weekends. And we never thought about flex time. We didn't name flex time, though it was all obviously there because hotels, cabs, stores, they were all still having those hours. Okay. So that's why it was called hump day, Wednesday, to get over the hump to the weekend. And I say, you know what? Let's take away the connotation of hump, which means we have to get over, and look at the fact that Wednesday is the middle of a traditional 7-day week, regardless of when you work. So we don't even have to relate it to working, just to living. And so Wednesday is the day that keeps the week beginning and the week end together. So it is the glue, and it's the glue. It's the key. And as we talk about keeping it together, that's why I call it the glue, because we don't have to get over. We have to keep it together. And what's better glue to have than God's love, which undoes everything? Doesn't mean that God's love tear things apart. What it means is that things that are torn apart, God's love will bring them back together. He'll bring your week beginning and your weekend back together so that you can flourish in the means that he has put you on this world to do. Sometimes we forget about that. So anyway, so today I'm going to talk about, and you've heard me quote an Air Force chaplain that I heard years ago, where he said, you know, the real moral behind the story of the three little pigs is not what type of a house you build, but the fact that the storm is coming. And I just never forgot that quote. And I always love to quote, to give him credit, even though I can't remember his name, but I always, you know, it's so important when you're in the speaking business. If you quote somebody, give credit, that even if you don't know their names, give some type of identifying quality of that person that you're quoting, because that affects and impacts your authenticity. Okay. It's a part of our speakers' ethics. Okay. So anyway, so this chapter, he said, it's not, you know, the story of the three little pigs is not about what type of a house you build, but about the fact that the storm was coming. And so I added to that. And after that storm, there'll be another storm, and then another storm. So my topic is today, how will you prepare for your storms? How will you prepare for your storms? And I say that the way that we do that is, let's start out by naming them. So I want you to get ready, because you're going to be able to throw this in the thread. And even if you're watching the video, you can still do it, because I'm going to use the letters from the word storm as how we identify our storms, and then what we do to deal with our storms. So so you can throw them in, but the first letter, and I won't deal with every single one, but the first one is the letter S. Sensitivity and your source. What creates the storms for you? It's your sensitivity and your source. How sensitive are you to what people say? But also, who are you involved with? I say, who are you involved with? Not just surrounded by, because see, a lot of times we hear people say, well, you know, when you surround your 5 people that you surround yourself with, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's not just who you surrounded with, but who you're involved with. Because sometimes the messenger that we choose, because you've always heard me say, choose your messengers carefully, but sometimes the messenger we choose is subconsciously chosen, just like a contact high. See, right now, me, Roger, Carol, and Tawana are on here together. So we're choosing one another as a messenger, but there's a contact high there where, my choice may get rolled over into one of theirs. And that, and it is true. You get a contact from who the other person got their message from. So that's why even when you talk about choosing your messengers, don't just say, oh, that's my messenger, that's my person. No, who's their source? Because so the source is so important for your storms. And you see, most of us, we don't listen to both sides of an argument or an issue. We like our person, we like our news channel, and what we do is we hear the other side, but we don't listen to their senseless stance. See, I hear what you're saying, but that's senseless because I don't believe in it. And that's one of the things that is so important that we look at our source. So these are creators of your storm. What are some things with the letter S that create a storm for you? I'm going to take a breath and let you throw that in the feed. And that's what we're going to do with each letter. So we might find out that I've got the same words that are building some storms for you. So what are some? Oh, Annette, I could just stab me because you have been on my mind to just write and to send you a text and say, how you doing? So good to see you. Thank you. Annette, we're talking about storms right now. Beginning with the letter S, how do you identify? What are some of the storms? What create the storms in your life? Anybody, throw something in there with the letter S that creates the storms. There we go, Roger Carroll, stress. Stress creates a storm, and it does. And you know what? And stress is unavoidable. So what we have to do, I have a certification in what's called stress mastery rather than stress management. We have to learn to master our stress because recognize that you will not be devoid of stress. So instead of telling yourself that you won't have stress, tell yourself that you will. And therefore you can prepare yourself to positively say, well, now what do I do with that? And when we get down to the second part of our session today, we're going to talk about how we handle those storms and how to handle stress is one of those things in it. So thank you. Stress is so important. And then seizures. Seizures can be a part of the storm. See, yes, and I'm glad you put that in there because, again, sometimes we instantly will think of storms as what is a problem? Somebody's getting on my nerves. No, there are things that are happening in our lives that create storms for us individually. And again, once we, well, I got to go fast forward to you, spoiler alert, because one thing I'm going to say is when we look at how do we, not just prepare for the storms, but how do we calm the storms? One of the S's is self. And, you have to calm your storm. And so you have to, if you know what, if you know how to control your seizures, are you taking your medication? Are you putting yourself in situations where you will trigger that response that brings them up? So those are the types of things. So thank you both. And again, if you're watching the broadcast, you can still put some things in there because sometimes we need to see, wow, somebody else has that and I hadn't thought of that. And just another way of looking at things. That becomes one of our keys. What about the letter T? What about the letter T? What are some things with the letter T that bring you a storm? I'm going to go onto the live feed right now and see what we got because maybe somebody's written something and I didn't catch it. Yay, this is so cool. All right, but what about something with the letter T that causes storms for you? And I think I'll let you put them in there first. Nah, I'll put them in there because that way we keep rolling. Okay. All right. So here goes one. Here goes 4. Trust, trivia, trauma, and transition. These are all words begin with the letter T. And look at that. See, you don't make this stuff up. Roger Carroll had it. Trauma, physical and emotional trauma. And by the way, this is one of the fun things about what we're doing right now. Sometimes we have to do what's called catch people doing something right. And what we want to do is find out what we have in common. Sometimes we say, well, have you ever said, well, this may be a stupid question, or maybe somebody's, and we minimize our inquisitiveness and our question when actually excuse me, we find out, wait a minute, that unit. So I said I had trauma on the list already. So imagine if Roger Carroll was somebody who didn't think trauma was a good answer, but she wrote it anyway. And oh my God. Once we find out we're right, and that's for kids, that's what we have to do with, because kids is in there. Kids are in there, even though we don't have a letter with the S in there. But I was on Clubhouse this past weekend, and I heard a great comment from this guy. He said, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. And so as we talk about choosing our messengers, how many kids are choosing you as a messenger? And in the process of doing that, are they finding out that they're choosing the right thing? So they need to know, yeah, I had the same word in mind as so-and-so. And then that becomes a great sense of release for them. So yeah, physical and emotional trauma is a huge storm. Time creates a huge storm for us as well, and see, great, because I had all the words, but I wasn't going to focus on those two. But trauma and time are huge. And what I wanted to focus on is trivia. Trivia, as it is related to trust, because nonsense. Trivia is nonsense. Nonsense creates a huge storm. Nonsense creates a huge storm because it comes from overreacting versus thinking over a situation. See, so nonsense and trivia, somebody gives you this little trivia thing and you get all upset and angry with someone. There's why your source becomes so important, who you got the news from, of what someone so-and-so said about you. And so it can be the trivia that makes the stuff, oh, I liked we don't even have to have it as the right letter. It's the basic BS. That's what the trivia is. And it's the nonsense. Accessory overreacting. And it's letting anger be a part of your decision-making process. See, that's what ends up happening, is you let anger become a part of your decision-making process, because once you get some basic BS from someone, you get angry about it, and now you react unaccordingly to whoever, not the messenger, but who the message was about. So I told Tawana something about Roger Carroll that was negative. Well, so now Roger Carroll will react to me, not to Tawana. No, I told Tawana about her. Yeah, right. All right. But it's overreacting. Take your time, y'all. Again, we want to talk about calming the storms. We know that that's part 2 of our session. So take the time to think about the situation rather than overreacting to the news, because that's what creates the basic BS. And I like that term, boy. Hello. Woo. All right. So next is the letter O. What about the letter O? What are some things that some storms that begin with the letter O? Notice I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of them, because this is not me telling you this is the one and only way. These are some things. That's why I want people to push stuff in the thread, and we can get some more options. We can look at some other things that are causing storms in people's life. So what the letter O, and it could be obvious. Hey, coming in from the Ivory Coast, Jean-Luc. John, what we're doing is we're looking at storms, and we're using the letters in the word storm, and we're on the letter O. What are some storms that are created in your life by a word beginning with the letter O? That's where we are. And so he's outside of the United States, right? So there's that. Roger Carroll, that's that could be the physical trauma, because and we can go back to that for a second, where Roger Carroll talked about trauma, physical and emotional. Sometimes transition is trauma also, because it's change. And so when you have to physically move from one place to another, it creates some trauma in your life. See, that's why it's not always a negative thing. A storm is not necessarily always a negative thing. It's something that we have to deal with. And so there's a physical reaction to having to change. There's a physical reaction to actually having to change your situation, and emotional. Roger Carroll is getting ready to move from Chicago to Charlotte. That's trauma. That's physical and emotional. See, I've relocated 3 times now, and each one was a different kind of a storm. When I've relocated for the first time, that was different. Then, then I got better the second time. You get a different type of separation from each place that you go. So all of that makes a difference. Okay. So the letter O, this organization, and that's great because we could also put organization, but then talk about sometimes when we want to use a word, you throw the word out and then you show the variation of it. So thank you, Roger Carroll. Disorganization is a great creator of storms, because when things are disorganized, now depending upon how organized you are, it throws things out, even because you may think that you're organized, but you're not. And it throws somebody else off. And then you don't even recognize how it throws you off, because it actually puts you behind schedule. And you may not get all the blessings that you were scheduled for. But here's what I had for the letter O. Okay, thank you, Roger Carroll. And I had obituary and obligation. So obligations, I'm shifting based on my need. Obligations can go with that disorganization as well, because what do you need to do? But the reason I have obituary is because of death. Death is a storm, okay? And death is a huge storm that what we have to remember is that it cannot be avoided. You will go through the storm of death. It cannot be avoided. And what we have to do is recognize that everyone grieves differently and in the moment. That's so again, let's recognize that storms are not always these nasty things. We can just have a mild storm because we're going through something traumatic, physical or emotional. I love how we put this all together. All right, but everyone grieves differently, and in the moment, I got to tell you, one of the storms I decided to mention to you when my mother was dying. One of my younger brothers, he would come to the church, to the hospital when she was in ICU, and he would stand at the door. He'd come in, kiss her, and then he'd go stand at the door. And I asked him, I said, why do you do that? Why don't you stay in the room with us? And he's over 10 years younger, 12 years younger than me. And he said, I've never seen her in a position where she was helpless. And it traumatized him. See, trauma, physical, emotional. It traumatized. In my book, Stuff Happens, which is also stress related. I say I met my mother in her 20s. He met her in her 30s. So see, by the time my younger brother met my mother, she had a little bit more together. When me, I'm second oldest. She was still in her 20s and learning about being a mother. So I saw my mother in the bed sick. I had to help, bring her the aspirin or, cook the soup and stuff like that. And so that makes a difference. So obituary is a part of a storm. And death and grief is something that we all will handle differently. Don't get upset with someone about how they handle their grief. Maybe see what you can learn from them by asking them about it. Okay, so let's go to the letter R. What are some things with the letter R that create a storm for us? One of our sources of a storm that begin with the letter R. Wow. See, Roger Carroll's going to stay with disorganization, recklessness. And y'all know where a lot of recklessness is? It's in youth. But it's with youth, it's almost like a accepted recklessness, because when we're young, we think we're invincible, and we're learning. And as we get, so I think that the bigger storm are the adults that are living recklessly, because we know better. And it makes a difference. But recklessness creates a huge storm in our lives. Thank you for that, Roger Carroll. Man, we are creative. But here's what I have for storms in R: regret and relationships. And recklessness could go with those, because you could regret getting into a certain relationship that it didn't really work out. Okay, here, what we got? Oh, reckless with the W. There are some reckless old people too. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Tawana. Routine. Oh, that's beautiful. Routine can be a storm. Why? Two ways. One, because your routine can get disrupted. And sometimes when your routine gets disrupted, if you get in storm mode because you're mad and there's that disorganization. You're mad that someone has disrupted your routine. Meanwhile, there also your routine could also be creating the storm for you because you're by you constantly doing that thing that you're doing, you're actually attracting negativity and embracing it, and you may not even know it. So yeah, your routine creates a storm as well. Thank you. See, there's always now. Do I know whether or not that's what Coach Twana meant by that? No, I don't. But the key is this is what I was saying about how we have to not just hear but listen to what someone else says. These are all options, and I want y'all to look through the thread and just see some other ways of looking at things. It makes a difference. The reason I chose regret and relationships for my R is because what we have to recognize is that the best relationships, they don't come devoid of storm ability. They come with weather wanting. So you are going to have some storms in your relationship, but you have to want to weather the relationships. We hear some great vows at weddings about how people are marrying their best friend and what they'll do to support one another. Don't we have some beautiful vows? Yet in the United States, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. Now you can Google and you'll find that marriage and divorce rates have actually declined over the last 10 years from 2009 to 2019 and varying by state. But my point is that you have to want to weather the storm with your partner. So whether it's 50%, 40%, the key is, we hear these great, vows up at the altar. And then, you know what? They say that the toughest years are years 1 through 2 and 4 through 5. And then that's why they say there's that 7-year itch. And, 7 and 8 are usually a good spot for stabilizing. And those are statistics based on somebody that may not be you, which is also why you want to put stuff in the thread, get your word heard. Okay. But that's the thing, so regret and relationships can become, and they can also be routine, because what can happen in a relationship? You can start to take one another for granted. That creates a storm. Okay. Recklessness in a relationship, you didn't realize this idiosyncrasies that this person had. And then once you get into the marriage, then you start to see them. That becomes a storm. So, just a lot of stuff, y'all. So, so that's the step. So final letter, M. I'm going to go faster. M. What are some things with M that create our storms? And if you're just coming on, like I say, I want to remind our people who are watching the broadcast, I still want you to throw stuff in the thread, because people reread it and you could be lifting somebody's spirits. What words begin with the letter M? Mental mental monsters. Wow, yeah. And and I love that term because it's funny. As we approach Halloween, right? We think of monsters as scary things, but isn't it beautiful how we are now so much more aware of mental health matters? Simone Biles, different athletes, Naomi Osaka, and they're just the lead names, but it's a lot of people. And mental monsters are what people deal with. When people are going through a challenging situation, that's that, in the cartoons, we see the angel on the right shoulder and the devil on the left shoulder telling you what to do. Those are mental monsters. When you're trying to think of what do I need to do, when you got one thing saying you should do this and one thing saying you should do that. And it's tough. Y'all, it's tough. And when we get to talking about our solution for our storms, I'm going to remind you to rest. And in the M for mental monsters, meditation. I'm gonna go right there and let you know that that's the M, because you want to have some meditation so that you can deal with those mental monsters, because they're not going away. All right. So that you have to know. In fact, I have a poem called Controlling Angels. And because just like the sample I just gave you of a devil on the left shoulder and an angel on the right shoulder that we see in the cartoons, I don't have a devil and an angel. I have an angel and an angel. Because to me, a harder choice is between good two good things versus between right and wrong. And I can say, now that's a bad thing and this is a good thing, I'm going with that. But to me, the harder choice is when the choice is between two good things. And what you say, Coach? I have mental monsters. Yes, and that is what we have to all say, y'all. We all have them. We have them at different degrees. And then this is why the S, when we go to our solutions, your storm is about you. Are you embarrassed about your mental monsters, which, P.S., by the way, no one else knows about but you? So how are you embarrassed about something that no one else knows about? How you choose to share it makes a difference. But sharing it is also what helps you compatible. Because yes, and I'm pretty sure you wrote that, yes, we do, when I said we all have mental monsters. We do. I know I do. And so it's important for us to recognize that we've got those mental monsters. And here's where they come from. My M's were misinformation and material. Misinformation, because see, that's that mental monsters. If we getting one, try this, try that, misinformation. But here's what I was thinking about material. I'm talking about the material things being what we jealously see someone else have that we don't. And I say that what we're doing is measuring what you have as not enough. The material things, sometimes those are what contribute to that mental monster of saying, well, I don't have enough. I'm not good enough. And I'm lacking this. And we're going to come, I'm going to tell you about trusting your track record and laughing at your lack record. Okay. So you have to focus on what you do have so that you can master your mental monsters. Remember, I said I was talking about stress management, but stress mastery, that's a part of that, the mental monsters. So let's look at what we can do to calm our storms, okay? To calm our storms. With the letter S, what would you do to calm your storm with the letter S? And thank you all again for throwing stuff in the thread and just for thinking about it and contributing. It makes a difference to me, and it makes a difference to somebody else who's reading, who we may not know. But, that's the thing. You have to know that you save lives that you can't always count. But you have to recognize that you do count. So continue to get out there and save some lives. What about the letter S? Where am I? On the letter S. What are some things with the letter S that we do to combat to deal with our storms? We got to slow down. And because didn't you write earlier time? Tawana wrote time. You got to slow down. And that's also that meditation that I talked about as well. You got to slow down. Anything else with the letter S? Because, we're in this rush world, and we can even attach that to that last M of measuring what you have is not enough. We're comparing ourselves to someone else, and when you're doing that, you lose track of who you are. Because I told you that my S is going to come down to being you. So let's go right to that. Does it make sense? But the security is you. How secure are you about who you are so that you can know to slow down? And does it make sense? Excuse me, what you're dealing with? Is this really a storm? Is it really a storm, or is it just an inconvenience? And but you got to slow down and make that decision. Recognize that storms are about you, and they're about how you feel. So do you have the right sense of security to deal? Are you ready to mention that you have mental monsters and then smile at them? Because they can't beat you. They can't beat you. They can only participate in where your blessing is going. They are tools for you to show how strong you are. So slow down. Storms are about you and about how you feel about yourself. Have that sense of security so that you can overcome your storms. What about the letter T? The letter T, what words, how will you be able to slow down? And I just love that. This is a great connection. I've got a word already that begins with the letter T that goes right to how important it is for you to slow down. And even though when we talked about the storms that are coming out, and I think we had trust as one of our T's, and trust and trivia. Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, I love it. Thankfulness will help you slow down. Slow down and give thanks. We say it. We say it all the time, but do we do it? Don't practice what you preach. Preach what you practice. Slow down and be thankful. Oh God, there's even a song. Just be thankful for what you got. You may not have a great big Cadillac, a diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with the gangster link. Ooh, ooh, ooh. But be thankful for what you got. Man, that is such a stop measuring yourself against someone else. Be thankful for what you got. And for me, my T's were true. I had truth as mine, because the truth shall set you free, and that's the key. And what I decided I wanted to do with the T also. Oh, okay. What you say? Oh, you told me don't sing. How ride the car? Not diamond in the back. Diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with the gangster lead. Okay. But what I want to do with you for the letter T is I want to read to you from my Bible. But this is glue, and this is God's love. The Bible I read is called the Touch Point Living Bible. And what it does is has called touch points, which are scriptural connections to that put them in modern day connections to scripture. Okay. And so what I chose to use today is actually from the book of John 18, 28 through 38. And from 37 through 38, it says, Jesus is talking. He says, all who love the truth recognize that what I say is true. And then Pilate answers him, what is truth? Pilate asked. Then he went out again to the people and told them he is not guilty of any crime. Now, I remember reading that and laughing, saying, because you got to laugh when you read the Bible, and saying, of all people, think about it, of all people to say, what is truth? But Pilate, who was a politician, saying, what is truth? So the touch point is on the word truth. And the touch point takes from 28 through 38. And it says, what is truth? The question came from the lips of a career bureaucrat accustomed to determining truth by the direction of the prevailing political wind. But it is also the question that lies at the heart of all human experience. Is there a moral and spiritual center that gives life meaning and around which everything evolves? Although Pilate put the question to Jesus, he did not really expect an answer. He didn't want to deal with Jesus at all. He tried to get Jesus to defend himself or recant. He tried to convince the Jewish authorities to let Jesus go, but he clearly did not want to wrestle with Jesus's predicament or his fantastic claims about himself. You see, Pilate's avoidance became a decision against eternal truth. Are you willing to ask Jesus the question, what is truth? And then listen for his answer. That's how you slow it down. That's how you calm the storm. Are you willing to ask, what is truth? Because what is truth for you? And then are you willing to listen for the answer? So even as you're dealing with those mental monsters, how can you get them in line so that they can answer according to what you need? So then our next to last letter is the O. What about the O? What about the O in calming your storm? As you prepare for your storm, how can the letter O help you? And we are making very good time too. We are making very good time. So the letter O, and when you see me do this, it's because, again, I'm shifting based on getting used to sitting in the chair with my knee not moving. All right, the letter O. I'm going to go on and be the first to put something in there with the letter O, and you can feed off it because it's omnipresent. Omnipresent. You can wait to call on God when things are bad. But in his book, remember, things are always good. Because in God's book, things are always good, and he's always with you. So how strong is your faith That to me is what omnipresent is about. And I've named this little boy Steve. I use him in my presentations. And look what he says. Might not be tonight, tomorrow, the next day, but everything is going to be okay. See, if God is omnipresent in your life, that, how strong is your faith? You have to know that everything is going to be okay. You have to go back to everything we talked about. There you go. It's the optimism. You have to know. See, it doesn't have to be religious. It's spiritual. I'm saying faith, but optimism. That's what you have to believe is going to be okay. It's your spirituality that makes a difference. So please don't get on thinking that I'm preaching about how you better do this according to my religion. No, I'm using my religion and my faith as a sample, but I want you to put yours in there and what works for you. Remember, calming the storm is about your sense of security. So it's the optimism. Because this kid, I say, Steve learned this from us. Kids learn from us that everything is going to be okay, right? They didn't make that up. Something happens, don't we come? We say, oh, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. They learn it from us. Children mimic and mirror adults. If they're mimicking and mirroring you, where are they going with life? And amen coming from Africa. That's the A. But that's the key. So recognize that God is omnipresent and you need to know about your strength. Okay. Thank you for being a sample. You're such an inspiration. Amen. Thank you. As we go to the final letter, and that's the M. And so there's the S could also be in the storm for a sample. Are you a sample of what it is about, what it means to be the calm in the storm? Can you get through the storm? Well, I'm gonna go fast forward on this one because Coach Tawana, you hit it with such a good spot. And that is, I want you to look at your resilience. See, if you're going to be an example, you have to be an inspiration because you are an inspiration to somebody. You have to know how resilient you are. And like Roger Carroll said, it's the self-motivation. Are you motivated to continue being who you are? Can you look back and do what? Trust your track record. Laugh at your lack record. You are a sample for somebody, and you have to have that self-motivation to continue to do it again. Excuse me, if you've never heard me say trust your track record, laugh at your lack record before, I know, Roger Carroll, I know, but that's okay. That's okay, because this is our alphabet. We in charge. Remember, I say sometimes, we're never off topic. Whatever took you somewhere is related. So the R is because you're still in a storm. Okay. So back to the resilient. I see what you're saying. So that was that, but it's the M and the R. That's okay. You skipped the letter, but you got back in charge. You got back on track. That's the key. All right. But your laugh record is when you say that there's something that you say, well, I can't do that. I don't have the right education. I'm not the right sex. I don't have the right background. So, and you come up with all these reasons why you don't qualify. I lack this to do that. Instead of trusting your track record for the fact that there was a time where you didn't have such and such and you still made it. Because even with you knowing what you don't have, if you still make the attempt and then you get through, guess what? You now have a track record. You can laugh at what you didn't have because actually you didn't need it. You just thought you did. Your track record says all you needed was to be who you are. And that's really what it's all about. It comes down to that, right? And so the final letter, the M, is also meditation. Meditation goes. That's why I said, and I said it earlier when I think it was when we talked about the mental monsters, right? And Roger Carroll talked about slowing down. I put that up there, So we already know meditation, y'all. Take the time every day to calm yourself down. And guess what? If you miss a day, start again. Listen, routine. What you say, Coach Tawana, routine. Well, I always calm myself down, but I didn't calm myself down today. I didn't take time out for myself. That's okay. Restart tomorrow or restart later on. Your routine, that could be that storm. Yeah, I do it every day at 4:00 and I didn't do it. Do it at 5 today and then get back to 4 tomorrow. or find out that 5 is better than 4 anyway. Or maybe you want to move to 12. Forgive yourself. When you miss a day, just forgive yourself. Remember, we are preparing for storms every single day by recognizing that we are approaching in or coming out of a storm. We are approaching in or coming out of a storm, and we have no idea where the middle of the storm is. What we have is an idea of who's more powerful than the storm. And I find that in Mark 4:39 through 41. Okay, where when he woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the water, quiet down. Now, again, my Bible puts it in modern day terms, but we also have heard peace be still. Suddenly, the wind stopped and there was a great calm. And he asked them, why are you so afraid? Do you still not have faith in me? And they were filled with awe and said among themselves, who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey him? So you don't know whether you're at the beginning, the end, the middle, or the end of the storm, but you know who is in charge of that storm. And that's why, again, I like that we had both positive and negative things about creating storms on a bad way and then solutions to storms. Because, you know, God is about the storm. And just like we recognize that, oh, this needed to happen so that I could get that, right? God is good. So therefore, the storm does not always have to be a bad thing. Meet your next storm with confidence and a winning record. And then keep finding ways to not get over, but to keep it together with glue. GLUE. God's love undoes everything. Thank you for tuning in. Recognize that you can help yourself, and I can help you more with the glue by making sure you get your set of passing thoughts cards. These things that they keep you positive and give you great ways to start conversations off. And you can get them at my website, sportyking.com, where you can also find plenty of my inspirational products to help you keep going. As Coach Tawana said, that's how I can continue to be an inspiration to you. So make sure that you find ways to do that. Okay. Oops. Uh-oh. What happened? Uh-oh. Panic. Don't anybody move. Okay. Oh, cancel that. Ooh, okay. That was close. All right. Here, I got to go to this one. There we go. Yay. All right. Okay. So thank you. And thank you for joining in and appreciating it. And Roger Carroll, this can preach. Amen. That's right. It can. And it can. And so, you know, that's what we have to sometimes recognize, that our life can surely preach. Ooh, y'all don't see all these things that are going on with my computer. Oh, man. Oh, it's too cool. But anyway, I always say WTF. Wear the face mask. Wear the face mask. Everybody's got that's a storm that we're in. It's a great debate of whether or not people should. I'm one who is a proponent of wearing it, even though I've gotten my shots. And hey, this is a storm that we're in. We've never been up against the pandemic before. Scientists, doctors, we've got the best in the world coming up with theories on what we can do to overcome this. Yeah, people who've got the conspiracy theory, well, there's a chip in there, and then, and there's, they're trying to, wipe us all out. Well, you know what? If there's a small group of people who are trying to wipe all the rest of us out by giving us the vaccine, why would you want to stay here and be with them? Because they're going to find you out sooner or later, right? I'm like, hey, take me away with the masses. I'm all right. And I joke about it because, y'all, it's just another storm. And it's just another way of how you want to look at things. Bless you, because I know there are some people who cannot get the vaccine, and I know how uncomfortable the mask can be, y'all, but it can be just an inconvenience that can make all the difference in the world. So thank you for what you do to make a difference in the world. Thank you for joining me on Glue Wednesday, and I'll see you next week. And remember, you can always send me a topic if there's something that you think that you'd like to see covered on Glue Wednesday. I'll be happy to do that for you as well. All right, cool in the gang. Let us roll. Ciao.